speech, we identified the 4 sectors of economy, of a modern economy. As you can see, Uganda is a very rich country. We have got everything. But the problem was organization, how to organize the country in a modern way. So we identified the 4 sectors: commercial, agriculture, manufacturing, services, tourism, hospitality, professional services, and later on, another sector, ICT. That's how the economy has been growing quite well. We are now a middle-income country, but we are going to grow even much faster than we have been growing. It is therefore very important for me, who has been active for the last 64 years. I've been involved in African and Ugandan issues, to have a chance to meet with the people from the rest of Africa so that we can share notes. It is possible for Africa to grow. We have got everything. It is just ideological, philosophical, and strategic mistakes that make our countries lag behind. Therefore, if we meet and share ideas like we have done now, we are going to sort out all this. So I'm very happy, and I thank His Excellency President Lorenzo for chairing this meeting, and I thank His Excellency Faki Muhammad, and I thank all of you who came here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Excellency President. The final closing remarks will be by His Excellency João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, First Vice Chair of the African Union, and the Chairperson of this session. Your Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Sua Excelência Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Presidente da República do Uganda, Sua Excelência
Excellency,
da Etiópia, Sua Excelência
the President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia,
Suas Excelências Chefes de
Excellency
Estado e Governo,
Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Heads of State and Government, Excellencies Representatives of Heads of State and Government, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this extraordinary summit of the AU, focusing on the development of agriculture in Africa, a meeting during which we discussed documents which presents the situation since the approval of Malabo Declaration in 2014, as well as the perspectives for the next 10 years as contained in the 2026-2035 10-year plan of action, the Kampala Declaration on PIDA, as well as the fundamental documents adopted during this summit. In our discussions today, we've had the opportunity of reviewing the documents which have enabled us to note that there have been a broad consensus on the need to implement the decisions that we've adopted and which would be crucial in achieving the outcomes of the summit, that is building a resilient, robust, inclusive and sustainable agri-food system is taking into account sustainable economic growth and shared prosperity. We are fully conscious of the fact that our continent has the necessary conditions for productive agriculture, which can meet not only the needs of our people, but also meet the food needs of the other regions of our planet. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the summit comprehensively discussed issues relating to peace and security in Africa, prioritizing in particular issues relating to the exacerbation of terrorism, violent extremism, and unconstitutional change of government. As we are aware, the efforts that we put in place to stem this scourge, which afflicts part of our continent, would enable us to achieve the desired outcomes. That is, to have a continent that is at peace and security with stable institutions, which would be the bedrock for the development of our countries. Unfortunately, some of these practices take us away from the main objectives of our continent, namely promoting development using agriculture as our leverage, a theme which we discussed during the summit and which should enable us to find solutions to the political problems affecting our countries without resorting to violence or armed force. We want to use this opportunity to express our concern regarding the war in Sudan, which has unduly affected the citizens of the country, the neighboring countries, with a high number of refugees pouring into the neighboring countries. So we appeal to the warring factions to seriously look at using dialogue to resolve the conflict. The conflict between the DRC and Rwanda could be ended if we take into account the progress made in recent months during the meeting of the Luanda process at the ministerial level. A summit at a high level will undoubtedly contribute to break the deadlock and avoid a setback in the process and ensure that the gains made are not eroded, especially the neutralization of the allied democratic forces of liberation of Rwanda, as well as the withdrawal of the military contingent of Rwanda from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mozambique, a country which is facing armed conflict in Cabo Delgado, which has not yet been stabilized. We see that the country is now in the throes of a new challenge of democracy, and this time it's about the outbreak of post-electoral crisis, which has been lingering for months and which has led to loss of human lives, which we deplore, as well as the destruction of the economic and social fiber of the country. After the announcement of the results and after the analysis of the electoral results by the competent authorities and the fixing of the date for the inauguration of the elected president, the continent and the world remains convinced that the spirit of unity will, dialogue and consultation will prevail in Mozambique so as to restore the social order of the country. And this would inure to the return to normalcy in the country. Mozambique and the people of Mozambique could once again smile, unite, and work together to ensure the economic and social development of their country. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we admit that despite this somber situation, there has been progress in the area of agriculture. And within the framework of the implementation of our strategy and decisions, which we approved during this forum, and we noted that we made progress, and this is encouraging, and it shows that if we further commit our energies, and if we further commit financial and human resources, we'll be able to achieve development, we're able to achieve our outcomes and ensure significant progress and eradicate hunger and inject dynamism into economy and achieve results which could ensure our food security. On these words, I declare closed the Kampala Summit. Thank you. And I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Excellency Chairperson, and Excellency is available. His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni will host the heads of state and government delegations to lunch at Sunset Restaurant, which is one level above this conference room. Ushers and usherettes will guide the direction. All distinguished guests are also invited to a luncheon at the tent by the lakeside. Ushers and usherettes will also guide. Special thanks to all our interpreters who have made this possible, and also all support staff. Excellencies, at this time, may we rise up for the AU and Uganda anthems in closure of the session. I thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies.
Truly is the kind of beauty that you can only find.
All right, and that brings us to the end of day 3 of the Caadp Kampala Summit 2025. Right there before the delegates and the heads of state moved out, we saw President Yoweri Museveni give his last remarks, and he reiterated again what has made Uganda's economy grow, and those were the four key points of commercial, agriculture, manufacturing, Service and ICT. We also saw closing remarks from the Chairman AU Commission, also Angola President Moussa Faki Mahamat, who again also reiterated the need to handle conflicts in Africa that are increasingly bringing about the issue of food insecurity within majority of the African nations. Most of the African nations that are suffering food insecurity are also suffering from conflicts.
Yes, thank you so much, Rhoda. Good afternoon to you, tuned into UBT TV. We are coming to the end of the Caadp Extraordinary Conference Summit. Yes, the heads of state, even in the first session, were highlighting a number of causes to food insecurity and nutrition problems on the African continent, and war was key.
Yes.
They also highlighted issues of not prioritizing digitization of agriculture and boosting agro-industry and things like that. And I think in the Kampala declaration that they have adopted today, that must be among the key areas that have been hinted on. Yes.
They also continue to mention a couple of African countries like Sudan, South Sudan, the Darfur area.
Yep.
At any one time, I think the Angolan president was mentioning that at any one point in Africa, there is drought, there is famine, there are floods at any one side of Africa. So conflict and climate change have been reiterated a lot throughout the deliberations that have been happening today.
And you see, those are things that can be planned for, but I think conflict is now becoming one of the biggest problems, because actually I was talking to Chirabo in the morning here, and he said our biggest problems are man-made. Because climate change and things to do with droughts, those are natural calamities that may come anytime, and probably you can plan and see how to mitigate. But now,
well, some of the climate change issues are really man-made.
That is true. Oh, true. But war can be avoided. How can we avoid war in order to ensure that we have enough food, people can access food, and issues to do with nutrition and agriculture can prevail and blossom the way it should be? To me, I think that is the bottom line in as far as handling or curbing the real causes of the main problem. Yes.
We saw one of the development partners, a minister from Norway, say that they are going to garner their efforts to governance and to see that there's proper governance happening in the African Union affiliated states, and also transparency. So I think that in a way is one of the discussions that they are having to tackle
definitely, because it's governance issues that lead to conflict.
Yes.
Uganda alone is hosting right now thousands, hundreds of thousands of refugees, but 99% are coming from African countries.
Yes.
So you cannot have a conflicted area that has food. It can't happen. So definitely governance issues have to be handled as a priority. That way it will solve the issue of conflict, and definitely agriculture will blossom in those countries that have had such problems. That's what I think.
So from your assessment, do you think 10 years to come we will have conquered most of the challenges? Definitely,
if we can't delete the if we take seriously the agreements that we arrive at, the kind of decisions that we make. Actually, in the morning session, one of the heads of states hinted the kind of policies that we make, and choosing to keep them on paper and practice something else. Such things.
I think that was the President Selassie.
Exactly. So if we get to do away with all that. I had an interview here with a gentleman from Nafiri, that is a unit of NARO that handles the fish industry in this country. And he talked of a number of things that are barring our agriculture and especially the fisheries department from blossoming and flourishing. And he talks of limited funding and things like that. If we get to do things the right way. For example, the previous declaration, I've forgotten the city where they sat to have, it has that clause of 10% at least
for the national budget
to go to agriculture.
Yes.
How many of our countries have driven that direction? You get? I had an interview with one of the politicians in this country, and he said, you don't have to discuss the priority of any country. Just look at, of any government, just look at the budget.
Yes.
Where they spend more, you
That
just
is
get
the
to know their priority. So, how much are we spending on agriculture? We are that part of the world that is blessed with arable land, a lot of water. Okay, we are facing some climate change problems, but not as bad as many other parts of the world. How much have we taken advantage of that? I think the challenge is upon us to see that we drive the right direction.
Can we just walk through the days? How did day 1 go, day 2, and today, day 3, we saw the extraordinary summit of heads of state and government converging this morning and having their statements made. We saw the president of Angola, who is also who is the AU chairperson. We also saw the president of Somalia, beg your pardon, president of Ethiopia speak, as well as President Yoweri Museveni speak this morning, and they all had very important things to speak about. One of them mentioned the importance of empowering women and the youth, which is some of the initiatives that President Museveni has taken on are really geared to the youth and women. But I wonder how much of that is working in regards to our agricultural development and our agricultural sector development. We also saw President of Angola obviously talk about the conflict and how that is affecting us, climate change and how that is affecting us, and later on they went on to have the closed door deliberations, the plenary sessions, while the commissioners had there was a press conference by the commissioners.
Exactly.
Something interesting that they mentioned is that the environmental sustainability and how Africa has to get on board onto that. How, for example, European Union has put up now the deforestation deadline, is it? Whereby they will not import any produce coming from an area that
has cut down forests.
And what does that mean to our produce here in Africa and in the different African countries? That's the EU also closed border adjustment mechanism, and so there was a general call on the work done to meet environmental sustainability in order to penetrate world markets.
Okay, you talked about the first and second day program, the summit. The first day was a meeting of the ministers responsible for agriculture.
Yes.
And it went for the whole day. The sessions also featured presentations, a draft Caadp, the 10-year strategic plan, and things like that. That was the first day. Then the second day was a little general. It was almost the official launch, where Her Excellency, the Vice President, represented the President to officially launch the session, and today was the very last day of the whole kind of summit. Minister for Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, was a key player in this whole arrangement. He actually chaired the platform of all the ministers of agriculture who came up with the strategic plan of Caadp, and as well as the Kampala declaration that they have adopted today. The ministers led the technical people and all the technocrats within the agricultural sector were African-wide, and other stakeholders from development partners and all that to come up with that strategic plan and the Kampala declaration that they came up with. So that's how it has gone generally. Yes.
And that's it. Earlier, before we went in for the closing remarks from President Yoweri Museveni and President of Angola, we saw President William Ruto exit the country, President of Burundi, Evariste Ndayishimiye, and that of Somalia also exit the country. We are yet to see a couple of dignitaries exiting the country. Later this afternoon, President of Angola, Manuel Lourenço, who has been very fundamental in this summit and Caadp Summit 2025. Also the Vice President of Liberia, Jeremiah Kowang, President of Ethiopia, President Selassie, President of Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, that's Brahim Ghali, are all slated to be exiting the country this afternoon, among other dignitaries.
Yep. It was a really high-level kind of summit.
Yes.
A number of dignitaries, including heads of states, their deputies, heads of states and governments from different countries on the African continent and near and far. We thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the whole team in Munyonyo at Entebbe International Airport, my name is Michael Jordan Lukuma with my colleague here,
Rhoda Ngonzi.
And the whole team, the technical team, the engineers, the technicians, the producers that worked on this very summit right from day one up to the day that it has closed. We thank you so much for having followed. Hope you have been part of the whole process from where it started and you have taken the information to the best use. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye-bye.